enriching people's lives through color that makes everyday life more vibrant. As Japan's only comprehensive manufacturer of paints and surface treatment agents, the Nippon Paint Group has been a leading company in the country's paint industry for over 140 years. Drawing on the traditions and technological capabilities we have amassed over our long history, we have continuously pursued innovation, striving to develop and deliver high-quality products that respond swiftly and accurately to the needs of the times. We trace our history, highlighting the guiding philosophy passed down through the generations and our ongoing journey in addressing societal challenges. In the 1850s, waves of Western civilization arrived in Japan after the long period of national isolation. Jujiro Motegi, the founder of the Nippon Paint Group, developed an interest in chemicals, such as pigments and paints, while studying at Keio Gijuku and Kaisei School, the predecessor of the University of Tokyo. This interest stemmed from the strong influence of his elder brother Haruta, who translated Western books on chemistry as a side job to his profession as an English teacher. One day, someone visited Haruta to ask if they could produce non-toxic white powder in Japan. At the time, white makeup powder contained lead, and many people suffered from lead poisoning. Knowing that white makeup powder in Western countries used non-toxic zinc oxide, Haruta sought consultation from Jujiro about production of zinc oxide. Out of the sincere wish to help those who suffered from lead poisoning, Jujiro plunged into the purification of the chemical. However, zinc oxide production turned out to be extremely difficult, as he literally had to start from scratch. After countless failed attempts, he finally succeeded in producing zinc oxide in 1879 for the first time in Japan. He was also granted a license to use his zinc oxide to manufacture drugs for scalds and heat rash, in addition to non-toxic white makeup powder. His hard work seemed to have finally paid off, but zinc oxide production was very costly because of R&D and capital expenditures. Furthermore, its demand was limited as they could only market it for medical use. While he was searching for a way out of this predicament, all of a sudden, a tipping point arrived. At the time, the Finance Ministry's printing bureau was looking for a supplier of zinc oxide, which would be needed into vermilion ink pads. The printing bureau even attempted to manufacture zinc oxide on their own, but had to give up as they could not achieve a satisfactory quality. So they decided to purchase from Jujiro, who had successfully manufactured zinc oxide of high purity. This bulk demand helped to stabilize his business, allowing Jujiro to commence work on his long-cherished desire to research and develop Western-style paints. It was the age of civilization and enlightenment in Japan, and buildings and vessels were being built throughout the country, and demand for paints was rising. Yet, it took advanced knowledge and technology to develop paints. As a result, numerous dishonest merchants made huge profits by diluting and repacking imported paints. Jujiro pledged,
"I want to make paints that are of comparable quality to Western ones."
Determined, he devoted himself to his research. Jujiro was committed to develop paints by himself, rather than reselling imported paints. After repeated trial and error, he became the first in Japan to develop paints in 1880. The news spread immediately, and he exhibited his paints in zinc oxide at the Second National Industrial Exhibition. His commendation there led him to an unexpected twist of fate. A coating manager of the Japanese Navy by the name of Heikichi Nakagawa invited him to jointly set up a paint manufacturing business. Nakagawa wanted him to develop made-in-Japan marine paints for practical application, and Jujiro decided to throw his heart and soul into doing just that. With the support of Heikichi Nakagawa, he founded Komyosha in 1881. marking the start of what is now the Nippon Paint Group. In order to meet the growing demand for warship paints, as well as an increase in demand for paints for Western-style private houses and buildings that was triggered by the construction of the Imperial Palace, he expanded the product line, thus stabilizing the business of the newly founded company. In an effort to further expand business and ramp up capacity, Jujiro invited investors and became acquainted with a gentleman named Hatsutaro Tasaka. With a fresh investment in hand, in 1896, Jujiro built a state-of-the-art factory in Shinagawa, Tokyo, which boasted the largest production capacity in Japan. He also succeeded in developing a technique to purify what was already the world's purest zinc oxide, for which he was granted a patent in 1897. In the following year of 1898, he invited a number of shareholders to incorporate his business to establish Nippon Paint Manufacturing Company Limited. Tasaka became the first president of the company. Meanwhile, demand for paints continued to surge, as one new industry after another arose, such as private railways, shipbuilding, and maritime transport. In response, a new factory was built in Osaka in 1905. At the time, they still had to rely on imports of ship-bottom paints, which required special properties, such as anti-fouling, anti-rust, and water resistance. However, many years of R&D efforts finally resulted in the development of original ship-bottom paints. This led to a subsequent release of a string of new products. With unyielding perseverance and a relentless drive for progress, Jujiro overcame numerous challenges and established domestic paint manufacturing technology in Japan. After the end of World War I in 1920, the storm of financial depression ravaged the country. Nippon Paint Manufacturing was no exception to this and had to report the first deficit after its foundation. Jujiro's expansion policy backfired, and the company faced its greatest predicament yet. Against this backdrop entered Genosuke Obata, who was entrusted with leading the company, as it was on the verge of bankruptcy. Obata lost no time implementing a major reform program. He divested the coating division, zinc oxide purification business, and iron oxide factory, to name but a few, to focus on production of pigments and paints in Tokyo and Osaka. To change perspectives, he relocated the head office to Osaka. The reform was a drastic one, including downsizing of labor, but the remaining employees united to achieve a rapid recovery. What made this possible was Obata's long-held belief.
A business is the people that comprise it. Without stabilizing our employees' feelings and regaining solidarity within the company, we will never get over this crisis.
He observed that the conflict between capitalists who pretend to be feudalistic masters and workers who are affected by labor movements and only claim their rights is hindering Japan's economic development. Concerned over this trend, Obata advocated mutual prosperity, where the two parties would agree to align their rights and obligations to achieve prosperity based on mutual respect. Acting upon his belief, he decided to disclose profit and loss information, including profit appropriation and executives' remunerations, in a bid to get rid of suspicions held by some employees. He thus ensured that employees who stayed with the company were satisfied with their own decision and declared that he would share the joys and sorrows and interests as one of them. In addition, in a daring attempt to move past the then prevalent feudalistic culture in Japanese society, he abolished privileges for executives and treated employees as equal partners. This helped to solidify the unity within the company, and everyone attended to his or her own duties. This policy of his went beyond the company. Obata declared,
"The company does not have any conflict of interest with distributors. Rather, they are an extension of the company and fellow workers with whom we walk hand in hand."
Under this policy, he shared some of the corporate information with distributors and treated them with respect as professionals of knowing what to supply to whom. This consolidated the sense of unity between the company and distributors, and it aligned their goals of expanding the performances of their businesses. Obata pursued prosper together with all stakeholders through a sincere and fair way of doing business. And under his leadership, the company's performance steadily recovered. No sooner had performance stabilized, the Keihin district was reduced to ashes in the Great Kanto earthquake. Immediately, Obata sent some employees to the affected areas to distribute cash to the distributors and business partners there. Daikokukai, an association of the distributors in Western Japan, preferentially supplied paints to their Eastern Japan counterpart, Ebiskai, to support an early reconstruction of their business. Thanks to such proactive support programs, the distributors and business partners in the affected areas were able to resume business within a month. With the subsequent demand stemming from reconstruction, the company and its partners were able to expand their business, having barely missed a beat. Following the end of World War II, public perceptions of paint changed dramatically. Paint came to be seen as something that enriches our world through the colors of one's choosing, such as vibrant tones or hues that blend harmoniously with the environment, and through colors that draw attention and support traffic safety and other security purposes. Brighten the world with paints. Staying true to our founding aspiration to help solve social challenges, the Nippon Paint Group continued to enrich the living world through the power of science plus imagination. Furthermore, to bring the advanced technologies and quality we have cultivated in Japan to the world, we expanded overseas ahead of other companies in our industry. The group formed an Asian joint venture partnership with Mr. Go Chen Liang, founder of the Whitlam Group. It began with the establishment of Nippon Paint Singapore's predecessor, Pan-Pacific Malaysia Industry, in Singapore in 1962. We subsequently expanded into other Asian markets, including Malaysia, Thailand, and China, and established our position as the leading brand in Asia. Over more than 60 years, we have built a close partnership and expanded our operations to the United States and Europe, establishing our position as a leading company in the global market. The Nippon Paint Group began actively pursuing M&A in 2019. Following the full integration of its Asian operations in 2021, the group has continued to welcome outstanding companies into its global portfolio. Furthermore, the group has continued to expand its network by building strong partnerships with new partner companies around the world. Guided by the spirit of prosper together, we are accelerating our growth. The Nippon Paint Group traces its origins to a founding aspiration to help people suffering from lead poisoning. Building on this founding spirit, we draw on the technological capabilities developed over our long history to address social challenges. The Nippon Paint Group will continue to enrich the living world through the power of science plus imagination.